Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Matt, I'm just a dude, and in this video I'm going to show you how I built these two live edge Wenge charcuterie boards out of this slab that had a split in it. So stay tuned. I've been wanting to build a couple charcuterie boards for a while now. I've had a problem with cutting out good pieces of wood and throwing it away, so I've always held back until one day I went to the wood store and I found this slab of Wenge wood that had a split in it. And automatically when I saw that, my mind started putting designs on there and ways to put the handles together, so there was literally no waste. So I had to have it. I wanted to keep that natural split in it as one of the borders of the boards. So what I did is I took my skill saw and I just cut up the board until I met that split. Unfortunately, that split wasn't straight up and down. What I did is I took a chisel and just finished the cut, or met the split with the cut, in order to separate the two pieces of board. Once the two pieces of board were separated, I was able to use a piece of soapstone to design the handles, or the curvatures in the board that I wanted to use. And I used soapstone because it showed up on the dark Wenge wood a lot better than a pencil would, and also I could erase it with just using my hand. Soapstone is great to use on dark stuff like that. I used it on metal. It worked out really good. Once I had the handles designed that I wanted, I used my cordless jigsaw and roughly cut out the handles. Once those were cut out, I wanted to true up the boards. They weren't flat. They wobbled a little bit, so I wanted to send them through the planer. Unfortunately, my planer only goes 12.5 inches wide. So the largest board was at 13. So I had to cut down that split edge. And I wanted to keep the curvature in it because it wasn't exactly straight. The angle made it too wide. So what I did is I used my table saw and I just cut off the excess around that split. And that brought it down to under 12.5 inches wide. Once I had that completed, I was able to put it on the sled. Now the sled that I have is just a piece of stairway tread that I purchased from Home Depot. I went through a whole pile until I found a tread that laid flat on the concrete floor. And once I found that, I bought it, and then I sent the other side through the planer to true it up on both sides. So to mount the charcuterie board to the tread or sled, what I did is I used a hot glue gun and shims. And you have to shim the board so it doesn't wobble on there, because the rollers have enough pressure or enough force on them to flatten out the board, and then when you take it out, it will go back to its original shape and still be not 100% flat. So you have to shim it and then glue it down. Once I had one side of it true, I was able to remove it from the board or from the sled and flip it around and then true up the other side. And I wanted to get the planing done first on these charcuterie boards before I started cutting out the handles or doing anything else, so all the cuts would be true, like a true 90. I felt like if I did that before I sent it through the planer, then it would be off a little bit, and then I'd have to do extra sanding to get them back in line, which I didn't want to do because I don't like sanding a whole lot. Once I had both the charcuterie boards planed down true on both sides, the next step was to cut out the inside of the handles. So what I did is I took a tape measure and I just marked 1 inch from the outside of the handle and all the way around the handle, and then I kind of just connected the dots and found a design that looked like it would fit inside the handle. Now, I just purchased a Wen Oscillating Spindle Sander. So the smallest the spindles are is a 1/2 inch. So to get inside of that groove, I wanted it to be at least a 1/2 inch so I could sand it with the spindle sander, because it'd be easiest. Since I'm cutting out the inside of a handle, what I had to do is I had to drill a hole for the jigsaw to get the blade through first. So I just took a drill, 5/16 drill bit, drilled through, and then I used my cordless DeWalt jigsaw and then just cut out the inside of the handles. Once I had the inside of the handles cut out, it's time to start sanding. Now this Wen Oscillating Spindle Sander made this job a lot easier. It comes with spindles for 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and 3 inches. So because of all the curves in the handle, it was able to sand those out great. I'll put a link above if you would like to see an unboxing, assembly, and first use of that spindle sander. So I used the sander to sand out the curves inside and out, and it helped get rid of the jigsaw cuts that aren't exactly 100% curved or straight, which made my life a lot easier with sanding. I use my quarter sheet DeWalt palm sander to sand the edges of the board and around the handle to kind of get rid of spots that the spindle sander really couldn't get because it's round. So I wanted to kind of blend some parts together to make the curves a little softer. Once I had the edges of the board all sanded down, I used my cordless DeWalt router with a 1/4 inch round over bit, and I went around the whole board, including the handle. The only thing I didn't touch on it was the live edge. I wanted to keep that live edge as natural looking as possible. Once the edges were routed over, it was time to sand everything. So I sanded the board down I started at 80 grit, and then I went to 120, 150, and then 240. After I sanded everything down in 240, I sprayed the board down with water and let it dry overnight. And what this does is it raises a grain. So it allows the water to stand the fibers of the board stand up. So when you're sanding them, it pushes them back down, but the water will raise them back up, and then you can sand them off and make that board smooth. So when it gets wet again, it'll still be smooth. It won't have that rough feeling to it when it gets wet. So once the board's dried overnight, I sanded them down again with 320 grit. I used the palm sander to get the big flat spots in the edges, and then I hand sanded the handles to get the round spots and the places where the palm sander wouldn't go. Once the board was sanded down smooth, it was time for my favorite part, adding the mineral oil to the board. Now I used food grade mineral oil to seal the board and just bring out that natural color, that dark color of that Wenge wood. And then with that live edge, having that dark with that light, I think it looks really, really good. I let those boards soak up that oil overnight. The next day I came to it and I gave the boards each a coat of beeswax. Once that coat of beeswax was on there, the boards are finished. They're ready to use. And that's how I built those 2 charcuterie boards. Now those 2 boards are also for sale right now, so if you would rather buy those instead of build them, you can contact me either here on the comments, or I'll post a link to my Instagram and you can message me there. Hope you liked this video. I hope it helped you out a little bit. If you can like and subscribe, it would definitely help out the channel and be greatly appreciated. My name is Matt. I'm just a dude. If I can't fix it, I'll fix it so no one else can. Thanks for watching.